More than 36 vampire films were made in Mexico between El Vampiro in 1957 and La Dinastía Dracula in 1978. However, in the nearly 40 years since, vampire movies have become rather scarce in Mexican cinema, although not extinct. Caveat emptor, some Mexican vampire movies don't contain vampires. Producer Rafael Perez Grovas combined two venerable franchises, El Santo and Chanoc, in Chanoc vs. Los Vampiros Asesinos. In a pre-credit sequence, El Santo hands over his powers to his son, who becomes masked wrestler El Hijo del Santo. Unfortunately, this is the best part of the whole movie. The rest of the time is spent in Baja California as Chanoc, Zicub, El Hijo del Santo, his sidekick Carlitos, singer Isabel Rojas, and cute Ruby Ray hang out and battle seal poachers and/or smugglers. The killer vampires promised in the title and on the poster are fakes. They're criminals dressed up to scare people away from a Tijuana cemetery where they conduct their nefarious business. These two vampires appear in two brief scenes and have less than 1 minute of screen time. They don't do anything and are easily captured by the geriatric comic relief sidekicks of the heroes. Chiquidracula was another cheat, possibly even more so. The character of juvenile vampire Chiquidracula was first seen on the Mexican television program Chiquiadas in 1982, portrayed by child actor Carlos Espejel. The TV Chiquidracula was an actual vampire who made bad puns and jokes, but when the character was brought to the screen in 1985, this premise was dropped. Instead, the movie is about a young boy who disguises himself as a vampire to scare his alcoholic grandfather into sobriety. 1988's Un Paso al Más Acá contains a number of interrelated supernatural stories involving the residents of a Mexico City apartment building. In one story, a maid, newly arrived from the provinces, suspects her employer is a vampire. She confronts him with this accusation, and he explains he's just an actor playing a vampire in a movie. This disappoints the maid because she's a werewolf. Quintín Bulnes, who'd previously been a vampire in Frankenstein, El Vampiro y Compañía, and Caperucita y Pulgarcito contra los monstruos, was cast as the building superintendent, revealed to be the devil at the movie's conclusion. The film's director was Gilberto de Anda, who had previously helmed movies about werewolves, ghosts, a giant subterranean worm monster, and Bigfoot, and would later make several direct-to-video vampire films. 1992's Vampiro Guerrero de la Noche, Vampiro Warrior of the Night, its title aside, was not much of a cheat. The Vampiro of the title was wrestler Ian Hodgkinson, known in Mexico as the Vampiro Canadiense. Since this was the character's name, the fact that he's not a vampire, and in fact there are no vampires at all in the movie, is not too annoying. The film was a sequel to Luchadores de las Estrellas, which actually did contain a vampire. This one is a science fiction film about a mad scientist, a wrestling hero, and an alien princess, but no vampires. A very egregious cheat vampire film was the 1996 direct-to-video El Vampiro Enamorado. The title, the video box art, and the DVD case all deliberately suggest this comedy has a vampiric aspect, which is completely false. Alfonso Zayas plays Silvano, who is not a vampire, does not pose as a vampire, and no other vampire, real or fake, appears in the movie at all. Although it's perhaps unfair to put this film in the cheat category, the 2010 film Alucard's Retrato de un Vampiro might confuse some people into thinking it is about vampires. This is actually a semi-documentary about two young people, die-hard fans of the movie Alucarda, who befriended director Juan López Moctezuma towards the end of his life. Some of the film consists of recreated scenes, and the rest is documentary footage. One bit of footage features López Moctezuma in Dracula costume and makeup. Juan Carlos Colombo plays López Moctezuma in the recreated scenes, including a cabaret performance in which the director dresses as Dracula and tells a story accompanied by live musicians. Vampire comedies continued to be made in the 80s and 90s. One of the most successful was 1989's El Vampiro Teporocho, the Wino Vampire, starring Pedro Weber Chattanooga as Count Dracula. Shot into space by Transylvanian scientists, Dracula's rocket crashes to Earth in Mexico, and he is befriended by a group of lowlifes. Weber had previously played a vampire in two brief skits in the 1986 comedy film Piquete que va derecho. In 1991's Curados de Espantos, vampire Vladimir Roberto Flaco Guzman is brought back to life when archaeologists discover his corpse buried under a pyramid in Teotihuacan and remove a stake from his heart. Archaeologist Magdalena knows the truth and enlists the aid of curanderos Hippocrates and Jacinto to destroy the vampire. This film was directed by Adolfo Martinez Solares, son of Gilberto Martinez Solares, himself the director of vampire movies in the 60s and 70s. Also made in 1991, Este Vampiro es un Tiro starred Rubén Aguirre, best known as Profesor Girafales, in the television program El Chavo del Ocho. Aguirre was cast as a vegetarian vampire who faints at the sight of blood. Roberto Flaco Guzman, who played a vampire in Curados de Espantos, returned in Dracula Mascafiero, an incoherent soft-core sex comedy. Guzman has only a few scenes and may have died during production in 2002. Transilvania Mi Amor was a direct-to-video film shot in the USA in 2003 by comic actor Charlie Valentino and is for vampire movie completists only. (1992's Cronos, or La Invención de Cronos as it was titled in Mexico, was the first feature film directed by Guillermo del Toro. Senior citizen antiques dealer Jesus Gris, played by Argentine actor Federico Lupi, utilizes the Cronos device to restore his youth, only to discover that he's now required to drink blood to survive. Not a traditional vampire, nor ever referred to as one in the film itself, Lupi's character is quite sympathetic. 1991's Luchadores de las Estrellas features Gloria Mayo as a princess from another planet who crashes her spaceship on Earth. She contracts amnesia and is befriended by masked wrestlers El Misterioso and El Volador. She then becomes a masked female wrestler known as La Rosa. Space vampire Nitron, who wants to drink La Rosa's blood so he can become immortal, arrives on Earth with his three diminutive henchmen in search of the princess. Gilberto de Anda wrote and directed a two-film direct-to-video vampire series in 1994. Armageddon, El Ángel de la Muerte, and Colmillos de Furia. Armageddon's title character was a mystical monster hunter in the person of Miguel Ángel Rodriguez, who confronts vampire Vanacek, played by director De Anda. Also involved is tabloid reporter Arturo Martinez Jr. elevated in the sequel to the position of vampire hunter himself. The Mexican film industry continues to produce fantasy films with some regularity, but vampires have become scarce in south of the border cinema. Can vampires make a comeback in Mexican films? No one can say for sure, but then again, everyone knows vampires just won't stay dead.